Hello, yep, I'm Helen. So I love my iPhone, but the solutions we design for iPhone are not necessarily the right solutions we design for other platforms like Android, Windows Phone 7 and BlackBerry. Those solutions may not work, they may not be the best experience on those other platforms. So tonight what I'm going to talk about is why designing an iPhone app is not, designing an app for iPhone is not just designing for iPhone. Okay, so I think of this a bit like language translation. You put that best-selling book through a translator and out comes the other side some words that probably don't have the same impact or don't make much sense to a native speaker as well. This is like if you take your iPhone app and you've created it for iPhone and you convert it to other platforms. It might not make sense to those users and it just might not have the same impact as well. So what it's really about is about looking at the differences and before making any assumptions and drawing up any screens. Because if you consider each platform, you can actually enhance your designs. For Android, you can enhance your design for BlackBerry, or you can enhance your design for Windows Phone 7. So to get us started, I'm just going to run through 5 differences that I think are quite key when you're designing for multiple platforms. So first up, we've got interaction patterns. Now this might seem a bit obvious because we all know that users interact a bit differently, the platforms all look different, but it's actually a really important one because all these different interactions mean that you may end up with a totally different interface on each different platform. So for example, take Android. So we look at Ice Cream Sandwich, which is Android's latest major firmware release. If a user wanted to delete an object in a list, they'd long press on that object and a contextual menu would appear. But on the other hand, iOS, there isn't any long press. The user would select the edit button in the interface to bring up the delete option. Of course, they could use the swipe to delete as well, but the interactions there are different, and that actually means that your interface on iPhone and your interface on Android would be different. And also there are different expectations here as well. So as an Android user, I expect a long press on an object to delete it. As an iOS user, I don't expect to do that. And you want to try and design for those expectations as well. Secondly, we've got different navigational structures and behaviours here. So Windows Phone 7 have their panorama nav, where a user goes through content by sliding left and right, not necessarily going down to different levels. But on Android and iOS, there's distinct screen-by-screen navigation. So you select something, you go and view that content on another level down, then you click the back button on iOS, or you select the up button on Android to go back up a level. So you're actually transversing up and down levels on there, but Windows Phone 7, it's across on one level. Then the third one is different device performances. This is about different capabilities of different devices. So that could be different capabilities in CPU or GPU or different battery life as well. And we know that there's a difference between iOS, older devices, so like 3G versus iPhone, but it's nothing compared to something like Android, where at the moment you've got all sorts of different devices out there, all sorts of different capabilities. And we're actually seeing proliferation of lots of low-end Android devices as well on the market and people buying those. So that app that you've designed for iOS with all those lovely features that are consuming all those processors, maybe a bit slower on your iPhone 3G, but maybe really slow on these Android devices, or maybe even rendered totally usable on those as well. Our fourth one is different functionality. There's all sorts of different functionality across these different platforms. It's what makes them all unique and have the difference in the market. And there's a functionality that can enhance the user experience on one platform. There's a lack of functionality on another platform that may mean you can't implement that great solution. Just one example of this is sharing. So on Android, if I wanted to share something, I'd hit my share button and I'd get a list of share targets that come up. Now those share targets are personal to the user. They're based on what that user, those sharing services that the Android user has on their device. But on iOS, on the other hand, those share targets have to be hard-coded into the device. So that list that you develop there may not actually be the complete list of the share services that the user wants to use. So they're missing out on being able to share to their preferred service. The last one we've got is screen size. It's probably an obvious one as well. But if you decide that you don't want to change the functionality across the platforms, you don't want to change how it looks or interacts, you've got to contend with all the different screen sizes. So over the years, iPhone has mainly changed the same, mainly remain the same, but on Android, it's all over the place again. You've got all these different screen sizes to cater for. In fact, across Android, Windows Phone 7 and BlackBerry, there are over 200 different screen sizes and resolutions. And on BlackBerry, we do know that all the screen sizes are generally much smaller. So if you just took your iOS interface layout with your call to action at the bottom of screen, that would be off screen on BlackBerry. It's about looking at the different size and replacing the elements if you were to design for BlackBerry. So really, all there is to it is getting to know the different platforms, seeing all their differences, and being able to create for each if that's necessary, instead of just converting. Because mobile phones are all different, and after all, one size doesn't fit all. Thank you for listening.